So today I want to talk to you about never running away from your problems and why they potentially will come back and bite you in the future. So if you're someone who hates problems, hates issues like all of us, but you really struggle with facing them, keep on watching, keep on listening. Hopefully this will be a useful one for you. Welcome back to consecutive day 1594 of a diary of a Runpreneur. If you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultramarathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, barefoot style, then do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always, and let's get started. So consecutive day 1594 of a diary of a Runpreneur, and today's topic is all about facing your problems, issues, challenges, whatever you want to call them, facing them and not running away or burying your head in the sand. So this is something that I've been guilty of in the past, and I look back, I can't think of a single one where it actually works in my favour. In fact, do you know what? I can think of a single one that works in my favour, and I'll finish off by talking about that towards the end. But ultimately, it's very seldom a running away or burying your head in the sand or ignoring a problem or an issue ever comes good. Very rare. Well, the fact that I've had so many problems, issues, challenges over the years, and I can only actually think of one where ultimately it ended well for me. However, it doesn't sit right with me morally, and I'll explain what I'm going to do about it in just a second. But the reason for the episode today is I had a pretty challenging conversation, a pretty challenging meeting that I needed to have today with someone who's done some building work for me in the past. There was a massive discrepancy with the price that was quoted and the price that was invoiced, and it's resulted in kind of a medium term, I wouldn't say dispute either. It could have ultimately ended in a dispute, but we've tackled it face on, and as a result we've come to an amicable arrangement. Now this is a situation where I ultimately felt wrong. I felt that I'd been done wrong by, but after kind of putting things into perspective, I kind of understood why the builder wouldn't feel like they were completely liable for the issues that we faced. And I'm not going to go into the kind of nuances of it, because it's not really about that today. It's about how you deal with things, which is the important part. And so ultimately there's been some defective building work on my my property, which was done by a subcontracted party who has since kind of gone into hiding, kind of, disappeared as much as they can do to avoid any form of liability. And ultimately, I've always been brought up that if you do a job for somebody or a product or a service for somebody and it doesn't turn out as the consumer would have wanted through no fault of their own, you generally do what has to be done to put it right. That's just what integrity, doing the right thing, is all about. But unfortunately, certain people don't abide by the same laws. So ultimately, you've got me on one end of the spectrum, the builder on the other, the subcontractor in the middle who is at fault, who has disappeared. So we've been trying to negotiate a way to kind of settle on this, because ultimately I don't want to pay for remedial works. The builder doesn't want to pay when technically they've been done wrong by the subcontractor as well. And it's one of these situations that could turn very sour, because the longer you leave it, the more kind of anxiety that's kind of caused on both sides about who owes money, who doesn't owe money, what amount is the money that's owed, what are the next steps in the process to ensure this comes to an amicable conclusion. The last thing you ever want is that fear of kind of looking over your shoulder of who you're going to bump into. All these types of kind of kind of feelings that we have as humans. And I've always been one to think, well, do you know what? No matter what the situation, I will always communicate with the other party with the intention of finding a compromised and amicable solution. And that's always been kind of the way that I've approached things. And what you find is that quite often we build this visualization or this assumption in our mind that things are going to go horribly wrong when you engage with someone that you have a dispute with. But in actual fact, quite often it's the polar opposite. In actual fact, you can end up building stronger, better relationships with people because they have a huge respect for the way you've dealt with adversity or dealt with difficult situations. And I've found that far more often than not. In fact, I can't think of a time where there's been a dispute that I've tried to deal with that has gone horribly wrong, pure and simply because I've communicated with integrity, transparency, and honesty. And ultimately, people respect that. And then they get a feeling that this guy wants to put this right, I want to put this right. We're both pulling in the same direction. So we're fairly confident that we're going to get a positive outcome. If you go silent, you bury your head in the sand, you don't engage, you don't deal with it, it builds up this stress, tension, anxiety of, oh no, what's going to happen next? Who's going to knock on my door? Who's going to phone me up? Who's going to message me? Who's going to call me out on social media? All these types of things that we worry about on a day-to-day basis that can be so easily avoided. And also I've found that usually, in fact, I've always operated in this way because, to be quite frank, I'm not very good at dishonesty, which is one of my better weaknesses, if you like, because it means that I've always adopted an honesty is the best policy approach. Now, sometimes this has ultimately cost me, but it's never cost me morally or ethically, and it's never kind of cost me my values, which are so important to me. And in this situation, so I just said over a message to the builder, look, have you got a moment to come and sit down and have a chat about this? And instantly, when I spoke to the builder today, he said, you know what, I've got a huge respect for you, because the amount of people I deal with who just bury their heads in the sands, disappear, they don't want to engage, they ignore you, and it just creates huge amounts of anxiety on both sides and a massive headache. And I just said, look, that's not how I operate. I said, I honestly believe there's always a solution to every problem. It might not be the best solution in the favour of either party, but if it's a solution that works, it's better than no solution. And straight away, the kind of challenges. Now, there were some kind of difficult negotiations as part of the meeting, but we've managed to kind of come to an understanding and a pathway forwards. And I can't express enough how it feels when you feel, do you know what, that was a really positive outcome. You feel like this huge amount of weight is lifted off your shoulders. And it's usually down to the simple art of communication with honesty and integrity. And I think that has served me so well over the years. And it's something that I'll continue to use forever and more. Now, I'll do my learnings from my diary in a second, but there is one scenario that has happened whereby by kind of not engaging has benefited me, indirectly. Now, the scenario here is a service that somebody provided in the past, and it wasn't to me, it was indirectly to me through an ex-business partner who ultimately done me wrong, and clearly he did a lot of people wrong when I found out about this. And this was quite a substantial bill at the time that I owed, or not I owed, that the business owed, that was negotiated by my ex-business partner. Now, I engaged with this individual, and at the time I was financially in a very, very bad place. This is several years ago. And as a result, I would keep on communicating with the individual, but ultimately there was never a positive outcome, because my financial situation at the time just hadn't improved sufficiently enough for me being able to service this debt. Even though it was indirectly my debt, and I did accept liability for it, I felt wrongly done by, I wasn't even aware of this debt until my ex-business partner had left the business and left me with all sorts of chaos to sort out. Now, I'm going to say today, out in the open, that I've completely forgotten about this over the years, because communication was stopped and there was no continuing communication. It eventually went away. The debt clearly wasn't big enough for the individual to pursue, but it was, so they obviously had chosen to write it off. But I haven't forgotten that debt. It slipped my mind, but I've remembered it today from doing this episode. And this could be a very costly episode, but do you know what? I'm going to reach out to this individual today, and I'm going to arrange a settlement with him to clear it, because that's not how I operate, and it doesn't rest well with me knowing that this individual is owed money through something that I was associated with. And that's my kind of pledge today, because it's not right. It's not the right thing to do. And so anyway, the learnings from my diary today are that in life we often have problems, issues, challenges that arise. Everybody does. And it's quite often it's the way we go about dealing with them which is the important part. And what I mean by that is, if you communicate with the other side in a way that you would expect to be communicated with yourself, with respect, and you're open and honest and transparent with your intentions, 95 times out of 100, that individual will appreciate, the respect you're showing them and your intention to resolve the issue. Now, don't underestimate that you do need to follow through with whatever you agree or whatever you negotiate, but just that simple art of respectful communication in an honest and with a degree of integrity, that will quite often just go a long, long way to resolving the issue or the problem or the challenge before it snowballs out of control. And it releases a huge amount of stress and pressure on both sides, not just one side, both sides. So when you're facing a problem in future or a challenge, confront that difficult issue, that difficult challenge, that difficult problem, and communicate about it. And believe it or not, 95 times out of 100, possibly 99 times out of 100, you will find a way to solve the problem, and both parties will have a newfound respect for one another. So I hope that's useful. Questions or comments, drop me a line. I'll respond to everyone. Do remember though, if you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultra marathon of run, blogging on consecutive days of distance of the world, barefoot style, do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always. Stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you again tomorrow.